Justice, what's the only EV that saw depreciation on the used car market in 2022? There's only one from
Uh,
summer 2021 to summer 2022. One used EV saw depreciation.
the Chevy Bolt because it caught fire.
No, believe it
Oh,
or not, it was the Porsche Taycan or
oh,
Taycan, depending on where you
well,
live.
okay, yeah, that actually
Yeah,
makes sense. The luxury SUV, yeah, yeah.
it was down 3% year over year. So that's how we're kicking off this Monday morning. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at YAA Electric for another episode of Plugged In. Today, we're going to be talking about how Ford's CEO is very, very adamant about chasing Tesla, despite huge gaps in their strategies and where they are at in the marketplace right now. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I might play a bit of a Ford fan's role, and Justice, you might be the Tesla stan, as they say. I don't know, but yeah, plenty to
Yeah,
talk
we'll
about
see.
there. How are you doing, Justice?
Smoky, but doing well, doing well. I
Oh
got a
yeah,
break from the heat with all the smoke covering us. So yes, wholesale level, nothing's moved on retail level yet. Sorry,
yeah,
except for negotiations. You can negotiate now.
yeah. Thank you, Igor, in the chat for pointing out that little trivia to start the day was based on the wholesale levels. I should have said that, but yeah, great to see here in the live chat. We've got Igor, Dwayne, James, Sean, Wes, Thomas, Kenny, Mustafa. Everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Now, I thought we would kick it off with a little bit of other news while we wait for the viewers to join us. And this one kind of caught my eye because, Justice, do you recall which legacy automaker is working the hardest and has the most patents by far in the solid state battery world?
Oh no, not in a solid state.
Okay, well, then
I
if you
mean,
were to guess,
Toyota.
yeah, it's Toyota. It's Toyota.
Toyota.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Feeling like a game show this morning, I guess. Yeah, Toyota. Now, a Toyota executive talked down the promise of solid state batteries last week. This really caught my eye because Toyota has over 1,000 patents in the solid state battery industry. It's more than any battery maker. Panasonic comes in second, but yeah, Toyota is really taking the lead in solid state battery development. But now even their executives are saying that it looks like, quote, liquid electrolyte lithium ion batteries will dominate the 2020s. So that doesn't really surprise me, but I thought it was interesting. Now, the reasoning that the executive, I forget which executive it was, but I could pull that up if we need it. The reasoning he gave was that liquid electrolyte lithium ion batteries are improving. That's a good thing. Now, I mean, what have we had? Like 120 years of innovation in the combustion engine, innovation and engineering department. Well, we're just now getting into decade 2, or maybe if you stretch it, decade 3 of electric vehicle development. So just imagine what's to come, Justice.
well, I mean, I would like to say, except for the original electric cars, which were around at the same time as the original combustion engines, and
Yes.
they were just decided not to go that route.
Yes, that is true. Oh, that's a long, complicated history. We'll have to produce
Yeah,
a mini documentary on that sometime.
yeah. I saw a good documentary, "Who Killed the Electric Car." So
Oh,
if you haven't seen that, that was a very good documentary.
yes. Is it the one about the GM EV1?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's fascinating. I would still love to see one of those in real life someday.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and before we go any further, we are going to get into this Ford news. I wanted to share with everyone just a simple fact that we don't bring up very often on the show, which is that over at joinyaa.com, we have electric vehicle resources. We specialize in buying resources and ownership resources, but we also cover new models. We cover industry news, of course, like today's industry news. But if you're thinking about going electric and you maybe aren't quite sure if now's the time or if the vehicle you need is out there on the market, maybe it doesn't exist yet because of limitations out there right now, we are creating resources to help the world figure out if going electric is right for you. And if you do decide to go that route, the path of least resistance for ownership. That's the way I like to look at it. So just as an example, these are some of the recent resources we've created. Looking at the Chevy Equinox, the best EVs for families. This is a big hit online right now because we've had this being in demand for so long. People were asking for it. So you can check this out and much, much more over at joinyaa.com on our blog. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
It's a
Yeah.
great resource. I know we get lots of hits on there. I've referred quite a few of our members over there who are trying to make that decision right now. It's a big decision I'm hearing a lot right now. Should I get hybrid or should I go full electric yet? And the answer tends to be where do you live?
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, where I live 30 miles from the nearest Electrify America. We've got Tesla superchargers all over the place here in West Virginia, but I live in one of those areas where I would normally recommend just a plug-in hybrid or maybe even a traditional hybrid until electric charging infrastructure catches up to where it needs to be. But I decided to just say, nope, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to live that weird lifestyle where I'm planning way more than I used to with the combustion vehicle, planning my charging stops and trying to charge at home as much as I can. But yeah, even if you live in one of those areas where going EV might not be the smartest thing to do, at least in the short term, you can still do it. It just takes a bit of extra planning. And for our family, it's been totally worth it. I mean, my car payment is $550 a month, but when you factor in fuel savings, I've had no maintenance, and of course it's under warranty. But when you factor in fuel savings, my car payment has really been more like $300 a month, which, considering how awesome the Ioniq 5 is to drive around, I think that's a pretty good deal.
That is a good deal. The average payment right now is what, 712, 732, something like that.
The average new car payment in America right now is $735. Yeah, that is
35. Yeah.
it keeps going up month after month. It goes up by like $3 each month. So pretty crazy. And yeah, before we move on to the next little topic, I saw a good question in the chat from James Bond. The one and only James Bond is here. With advances in technology, will lithium still be needed when all of these mines and production plants come online? A recent study by some industry experts and analysts found that we still need between 8 and 12 times more lithium than we currently have available to reach the electrification goals that we've set for 2030 and 2035 worldwide. Now, I know in the US, it depends on which state you live in, and that's a whole nother topic. We can get into it if you want to, but short answer is no. We don't have enough lithium. We will need more. So yeah.
Even for solid state, I think is what he's leading to. So even
yes.
for solid state, will we need this much lithium? And this is what I think I said on Friday is my fear is that we're investing so much in these mines that you can get an advancement of batteries, but that advancement is going to require you to use this lithium that they're putting billions of dollars into.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And another good question to kick off the show from Dwayne. Do EVs require state inspections? It depends on the state you live in. I know, for example, that Georgia does not. I just know because that's in my neck of the woods. But some states, including West Virginia, do. And in many states, including where I live, you may have to pay an extra gas tax fee because I'm no longer paying the gas tax. But I don't mind doing that as long as the money goes to where they say it's going, which is to keep the roads healthy. But yeah, it depends on where you live. So, Dwayne, I would research a simple Google search for the state that you live in if EVs require a state inspection. But
yeah, so in California, we only have a smog inspection. So most hybrids even don't require it. But then you pay an extra $20 on your registration for smog abatement fee.
Yes. Now, Justice, did any news stories catch your eye this week?
Well, I mean, the Ford one, there wasn't a lot this weekend coming out. Honestly, I was mainly in the movies trying to avoid the smoke.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a lot out there. I liked the survey that was a Clean Technic did on most, so meaning over half, Tesla drivers would consider an Apple car. That caught my attention because I was definitely one of those people. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of crossover in the way the thinking goes there. So if Apple put out a car, yeah, I think most Tesla owners would go, okay, I'll at least give it a shot or, give it a look.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Oh, man. Wow. Well, there wasn't a lot of big news this week, but one thing that was really on our minds was how Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, said that he's meeting with dealers this week to urge them to cut as much as $2,000 from the cost of delivering an electric vehicle. Why are they doing this, Justice? You and I know the answer. It's to,
It's to get direct to consumer, and it's to compete
yeah,
with Tesla. I
it's
mean,
to
that's what they
compete with
want to do.
Tesla.
Yeah, and I'm sure these dealers are going to take him very seriously because they have so much respect for him.
Yeah. Oh man, this is gonna be an awkward meeting. Hopefully, it's over like Zoom or Google Meets because I wouldn't want to be there in person for that one. Yeah, so let's get into this a little bit deeper. So the chief executive, Jim Farley, is going to Las Vegas now, trying to convince them to cut as much as $2,000 from the cost of delivering an EV. He's been pretty upfront about why they're doing this. He says that they need to keep up pace or catch up to these direct to consumer EV automakers, aka Tesla. I'm sure he's not trying to catch up to Rivian or Lucid. Now, there's a bit of a mixed reaction from the dealers that Automotive News has talked to. They found that some dealers are saying, "Yeah, we need to be on top of this, or they're going to be the losers in the long run." And I think that's true. Others are
Yeah.
saying, please give us time to spend $500,000 installing half a dozen fast chargers at the dealership. I mean, we just released a video on why dealers hate EVs. And honestly, one of the reasons is the massive investments that the dealership has to make to be able to sell EVs competitively, installing these chargers. But I mean, Justice, a lot of us, including myself, we're sick and tired of the dealership model, the way that you have to deal with all the negotiation and dealer markups and forced add-ons. I almost went the Tesla route. You did go the Tesla route. I instead was lucky enough to find an Ioniq 5 at MSRP, but I could see why Ford is really trying to scoot their way towards a direct-to-consumer model, because is the future the dealership model? I mean, that's up for speculation, but Ford seems to be really going the non-dealership route in the long term. But what's the huge mistake? In my opinion, the huge mistake is they might be taking a bit too long to offer a direct to consumer avenue for electric vehicle purchases. What's your take on
Well,
this so far?
yeah, they have laws that they have to get around that,
Yes, lots of laws.
Tesla and other people didn't bother with,
17 states. Yeah.
and somehow worked for them. But Ford has a lot of entrenched laws and money that they put up for these dealers. These dealers have already invested a ton into Ford in the first place. So there has to be some loyalty to the dealers there. We may not like the
Yes.
dealer model. I'm not sure if they, what the future holds, if there's a sort of hybrid system involved here. I know we've made a lot of hay on the YAA channel about the memos. I personally think the memos are just there for lawsuit evidence in the future. I think that's why they were written. I don't think they expected dealers to comply. I think that's just going to be exhibit A, B, and C in future lawsuits. Uh, this approach that Farley's doing now with the dealers, we need to cut $2,000 out of delivering, but we just raised MSRP by $7,000. If I was a dealer, it'd be like, okay, so cut $2,000 off the MSRP, cut $2,000 off my invoice. What are you talking about? You
Yeah.
can't raise MSRP by 7,000 and then come out and say you need $2,000 from me. Even
Yeah.
as a dealer, I would tell him where the door was. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, and I got to clarify that I'm not against dealerships. I'm against the traditional dealer sales model. Because, I mean, I just looked it up and I was not surprised to see that Ford dealerships in the United States employ 170,000 people.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want that to just disappear. But I think Ford and others, GM has been talking about this too. They're going to have to adapt in order to keep those 170,000 people employed by staying competitive, right? And
Yeah,
it
and
just,
Tesla has their sales and service centers. There's 3 around in my area where you can go and you can test drive whatever model you want. They just have one of each. And then that's where they get delivered, where you go and you pick it up and you do the walkthrough, and that's where the service is. I think that's probably the future of the dealer centers is they just turn more into that and less into the, my acres and acres of cars.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, here's something I've wanted to ask you for a while, Justice. And if you're in the chat with us live on YouTube, chime in and let us know what you think. When will we start to see outside of California, or maybe even in California, alternatives to simply going to the dealership for EV maintenance? I mean, is that something that will ever in the 21st century be as common as the traditional automotive shop on the corner? Or are EVs just too complex and high voltage to really allow that to be a safe option for businesses?
But they need to be offering training. Like Tesla needs to have some sort of outside training resource to bring mechanics in to learn how to do that. I think cutting out the local mechanic is just going to be bad for society altogether.
Yeah.
We need to keep independent mechanics out there, and they need to be able to do their jobs. It's a big skill, but not one you need to go to college with. We need those kind of jobs out there, and it would be a mistake for all the manufacturers to say you have to only come to our garage. I think that
Hmm.
would be a huge societal mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I see a strange future ahead where if I ever need to replace my Ionic 5 battery, which, I hope it makes it 300,000 miles, but that warranty's only good for 100,000. Um, what if it comes down to the option someday where you're looking at going to the dealership and getting an official battery pack replacement for, I don't know, $20,000, or going to the guy on the corner who has separately sourced batteries that are compatible with my Ionic 5 for like $12,000. I don't know. There's going to be like all of these different scenarios that we're going to have to think about in the future. But yeah, I may be going a bit aside from our main topic, but yeah, it's very, very interesting to think about. Something else that's on my mind with this whole Ford talk is the perspective. Now, zooming out and taking a bit of a bird's eye view of where Ford and Tesla are at right now, because Ford has made it clear they're going after Tesla. I mean, GM has said the same. Isn't every legacy automaker right now going after Tesla? In the United States, Tesla still dominates electric vehicle market share with about 66% of EV sales. Here's some perspective. In 2021, Ford sold about 30,000 electric vehicles in the United States. That's impressive for Ford, right? And I believe in 2022, it's going to be maybe 2 times, maybe even 2.5 times that. So 30,000 2021. That same year, Tesla sold about 352,000 electric vehicles in the United States. That is a massive gap. So here comes my little thought experiment that I went down this morning. Does it make sense for Ford to really pursue too heavily what Tesla has currently succeeded with, rather than capitalize on what Ford is already known for and what they're already doing great, such as building trucks, which they brought the F-150 Lightning out, building family vehicles. You've even got that Ford reputation for the muscle car. It seems like Ford is doing pretty good when they actually focus on what they've been good at rather than talking about Tesla every other day. I mean, am I onto something there?
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing about GM last week, and I'll say it about Ford this week. They need to know what their brand is and embrace that to be able to run forward. Trying to become something different is a mistake. There's already a lot of different. You have your Lucids, your Rivians, your BYDs out there, Teslas. So don't try to beat them at their game. You just up your game into what
Yes.
you're doing. The F-150 Lightning is extremely popular, and that's not competing with Tesla. There's no Tesla.
Yeah.
Sad to say, there's no Tesla truck. That hurts, but
That hurts.
there's no competition there. So they're running forward. Their biggest success is with being who they are, and they need to stay kind of in that lane. Be who you are, and
Yes.
people will come buy your vehicles.
Now, I want to say thank you, Justice, for saying that so much more eloquently than I was trying to, because that is precisely what I was trying to convey. But you are a master of words. Yes, Justice. I think that is Ford's superpower that they should really wake up and realize that they have. The F-150 Lightning, we've heard anecdotally, lots of people maybe not canceling their Cybertruck orders, but just kind of giving up on their Cybertruck orders. You know, they had 250,000 reservations pretty early and more since then over at Tesla, but they've been giving up on that hope and dream and going for an F-150 Lightning instead. Uh, I don't want to get into the whole Tesla speculation aspect, but I can't help but wonder if Tesla has knowingly delayed the Cybertruck, seeing the F-150 Lightning's capability and success. They're still going to bring it to market, but possibly seeing that there might not be like they can spend their resources elsewhere, ramping up Model Y production in Giga Berlin and Shanghai. I don't know. It's just interesting to think about what Tesla could really be strategizing about, considering how successful the F-150 Lightning has been in the electric truck space, which we all expected the Cybertruck to be here, like last year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Some of us were saying that looks way too cool to ever be real, but I think it'll still happen. It'll still happen. I really do.
It'll happen. Maybe.
Yeah, a little bit more about where Ford is at right now. And I actually don't bring up these numbers to say anything bad about Ford. I think this is kind of impressive. Now, in August, Ford's electric vehicle sales were up 303% year over year. That is a massive fourfold increase right there. Good job, Ford. The Mustang Mach-E has been seeing sales numbers steadily increase, and that has been aided by the fact that Ford has been able to come out of inventory woes, not 100%, but to a greater extent than other automakers. We've seen others such as, oh crap, which ones? Honda's a big one. Volvo definitely, but thinking of the big automakers, Honda is still just deep in the trenches of the inventory woes, whereas Ford is the opposite. They're starting to come out of that. And the Mustang Mach-E has seen inventory numbers come up with that trend, and 3,100 Mach-E's were sold in August alone. 26,000 Mustang Mach-E's this year. For perspective, my Ioniq 5, 17,000 have been sold this year. EV6 from Kia, 16,000. These don't compare to Tesla, but still, Ford is really neck and neck with Kia and Hyundai overall for second place behind Tesla. Now, I would say that's a win for Ford, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a win. And I think Ford has a lot of untapped potential that they're still not even on there. I don't know if you remember when Mario and I went to the LA Auto Show, but one of the big vehicles there was the F-100.
Oh,
and
yes.
I think that's an avenue that Ford has not yet embraced, that they could really get out in front of people. Is they have over 100 years of classic designs that they could come back out with and electrify, and people would go crazy. Because that F-100, people went crazy for that. That was great because it was the full retro style, the 70s F-100, but it was electric, and that was huge. And Ford has so much potential to really embrace who they are and become huge. And I think the Mach-E sort of shows that as well. Is they're doing F-150 Lightning, they're doing a Mustang Mach-E. When they embrace themselves, they go far.
Yeah, that is true. It's something else that comes to mind is, I assume, and you know what they say about assuming, making assumptions makes an ass out of you and me. But anyways, I assume that Tesla buyers will generally be different from Ford buyers going into the future, right? Now, I saw some data this week that really pushed back against my assumption, and this surprised me. So the top 3 conquests for the F-150 Lightning. Now, Justice, can you explain what a conquest is? Are you familiar with that term in the automotive world when it comes to sales?
No, not maybe okay. Not. I mean, I know what the word conquest means.
No. So in automotive sales, a conquest means that these are the top 3 vehicles that
Mm.
people buying who bought an F-150 Lightning already. People buying an F-150 Lightning, these were the vehicles that they sold or traded in to buy their F-150 Lightning. It's what they're getting rid of in order to get the Lightning. Number 1 on the list was the Ram 1500. Not too surprising for me. There's actually one F-150 Lightning owner here in southern West Virginia that I know. I met him, and he sold his Ram 1500 to get an F-150 Lightning. But numbers 2 and 3 on the list, Tesla Model Y and Tesla Model X. Those are the top 3 conquests for the F-150 Lightning. So I've assumed that a Tesla buyer will never become a Ford EV buyer, but I guess I could be wrong to some extent. I don't know.
I think it's Tesla buyers are early adopters still,
Yes.
probably, and EV fans. So I think these early Tesla buyers would be very open to. I mean, the first people who bought Rivians were definitely Tesla owners. Same for Lucid, and I think you have just sort of this open mindset where they're willing to jump out there and try these things. Uh, I think down the road, things will become as they are now, is more separated, and there will be the Tesla diehard loyalists and the Ford diehard loyalists, and but I think that's a ways down the road. Right now, I think Tesla owners are willing to go out there and yes, I mean that. Kenny, thank you. I said a 68 fastback, but yeah, that, give me a fastback Mustang and I'll EV and I'll go buy it right now. Forget Tesla. I'll run out there and buy that.
But yes,
I think Tesla owners have an open mindset to EVs right now, and they're willing to go anywhere. I will say the Model X surprises me.
That surprises me. It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, from a Model X to an F-150 is those aren't anything similar at all. So that surprises me.
As a scientist, or at least in my background as a scientist in biology, the Model X on that list makes me question sample size for Ford's stated claim of the top 3 conquests, because if the Model X is on that list, that's like a $120,000 spaceship-like Tesla 3-row SUV, and they're saying that that's one of the top 3 conquests for the F-150 Lightning. I wonder if their sample size was just like the first 100 F-150 Lightning deliveries or something. Because right now there's estimated between 5,000 and 10,000 F-150 Lightnings already delivered, which is pretty quick, but that sample size has got to be pretty small. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to focus on that too much, but I agree with what you were saying, Justice. And something else that really came to my mind was where should Ford really be focusing their energy? And I think they could take a page out of the playbook that GM is using right now when it comes to focusing on affordability and accessibility, because there are 2 top complaints we hear about why people are not going electric: lack of public charging infrastructure and price. The top selling EV in America right now is the Model Y, which starts at $67,000 with the destination fee. GM, they've just announced their Equinox EV, which is supposedly going to start in the low 30s. I still think it's going to be mid 30s to closer to 40,000, but that would still be a great deal considering inflation and what you'd be getting with the Equinox EV. I can't help but wonder if Ford should instead be accelerating the rollout of like a Ford Explorer EV, something like that,
Yeah, I agree. They need to look at price. They need to look at who they are, and not be competing one-on-one. Instead, doing because they show success already. So I think there's a good chance there. But also trying to rely on the dealers to cut the profit here is probably not the best way forward.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And let's see what's going on in the chat today before we start to wrap this one up. Igor in the chat says affordable EVs is what they really need to focus on to bring more revenue and buyers. Yes, that is, in my opinion, that's my main thesis. I'm having a hard time explaining these ideas that have been floating around in my head all morning. It's got me fired up. But yeah, imagine Ford bringing out more $40,000 to $50,000 family friendly. I mean, of course you got to have your muscle cars too, but let's talk about volume production. Family friendly, and let's say Ford Explorer EV, or maybe make more of those F-150 Lightning Pros that everybody wants, right? Because sure, there's plenty of $90,000 plus Platinums out there, but everyone's asking for more of those like $44,000 F-150 Lightning Pros. That kind of stuff could really be where Ford begins to solidify their place in second place in the EV market here in the United States. I don't think they should be striving for first, quite frankly. That
No,
belongs
no.
to Tesla. But as we were all discussing this, something else that I thought about was how last week when I sat in a Model Y for the first time in over a year, I had test driven them so many times in like 2021, almost bought one. But when I sat in one again recently, I didn't miss it. And I did not expect that at all. I think there's some value in the way that traditional automakers are, just others besides Tesla. I mean, sure, the Model X and the Model Y, you've got your fancy wraparound screens and everything, or the big screens. But I think there's some value in the way that other automakers, such as Hyundai with my own Ioniq 5, Ford with their EVs, GM with theirs, they're sticking to a less minimalist approach to their interiors that could pull in some traditional buyers. Now, I'm not saying I want a bunch of knobs from 1995 in my car like some people claim they want, but I feel like that is one area where Ford should like not pursue Tesla, because if someone wants the uber minimalist approach, they're going to go for a Tesla or maybe a Polestar, right? So I can't help but just think like the engineering department over at Ford, they must be making some pretty big decisions right now for their next generation of EVs. How much do they want to be like Tesla, right?
Yeah, again, I go back to they need to embrace who they are. Let
Yeah.
Tesla be who they are. Let Tesla be the one screen in the middle of the vehicle and that's all you get company.
Yeah.
Because there are people who love that and there are people who absolutely hate that.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Ford quality issues. Also, let's not forget that Ford already dropped off all their affordable vehicles, right? There is no more Fusion.
Yeah.
There's no more Escort. There's no more any of those. The cheap vehicles, they abandoned those years ago.
Yeah. I
And
wonder if they regret that. Or
I,
they might
I
bring them
hope
back
they do.
electrified.
Yeah, I hope they bring them back electrified. If they can bring those kind of vehicles back electrified and inexpensive, relatively speaking, then I think they would have a good chance of holding that number two spot. Whoever comes in with the affordable EV is the one who's going to have that number two spot.
Yeah, and something so fascinating to think about is what Dwayne in the chat brought up. Dwayne says, "Give me a Ford Expedition EV and they'll have his money." Every automaker has to play these scheduling games with their battery supply contracts with like Panasonic, LG Energy Solutions, CATL, Tesla starting to make their own, but they basically know where they're getting their batteries from 2 to 3 years in advance based on contracts that they sign with these battery suppliers. So let's say Ford has X amount of batteries allocated for, let's talk about the future. So 2024 model year. Ford has to decide, do they want to send these batteries into a far less aerodynamic and less efficient Expedition massive SUV and sell, I don't know, 30,000 Expedition EVs? Or do they want to use the same number of batteries, so X number of batteries, to make 3 times that number of more efficient electric crossovers or sedans? It's a weird battery number game that Ford has to be playing right now. And Justice, I can't help but think about a future where we're beyond that. And
Yeah,
it might be like 8 years away when we're talking about battery shortages. But imagine a day where you don't have to design your electric vehicle lineup based on how many batteries you're able to procure. Anything
yeah,
could be possible at that point.
that would be great. I would love to see that. I know, like BMW just switched. They're getting ready to switch right to the round battery cells. So
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out, once there's some sort of standardization going on and you can reliably get all these materials and minerals, that would be great. And then you could see really an innovation in the vehicles again.
Yeah.
Because right now, I think you're seeing less cool innovation in vehicles and more how much range can we get with this type of battery, and how many of the batteries can we use?
Yeah, and then you've got the Hyundai Envision 74, but Hyundai even said that it's just a rolling laboratory. They don't plan on bringing it to life, but that was some of the coolest innovation I'd seen for a while. We need to see more of that, right? Um, oh, let's see. There was a comment here that I wanted to bring up. James again in the chat. Ford Focus EV would kill it at an affordable price. This is true. And then also Nick
Yep.
says Ford needs a Model 3 competitor and an Explorer EV with 3 rows. One thing that I'm really thinking about right now is who is going after the Model 3? I have my thoughts. I think it's Neo. But what are your thoughts,
Yeah,
Justice?
I could see Neo. Yeah, I think BYD's
Yeah.
probably going to be in there, but not a lot. Not a lot going after at least not on the affordable side of it on
Yeah.
the Model 3.
Yeah.
See a lot of Model S competition, but not a lot of Model 3 out there.
Yes, indeed. Well, as we get close to wrapping up this show, I've got some big news to share with all 120 of you joining us live. Wednesday at 9 a.m. Wednesday at 9 a.m. Kyle Connor of Out of Spec Motoring will be joining me live on YAA Electric's Plugged In. So we've got a special episode. This is big news, you guys, because I've been following Out of Spec Motoring for like 2 or 3 years at least. I forget at this point. I am so thrilled that he's going to be joining us to talk about the present and future state of EV charging in America. He's got some news to share with us. We're going to be talking about why Electrify America has been struggling so much. He knows a lot of people inside of Electrify America, and we're going to chat about what they're doing and what they should be doing to fix the charging network in America before it really just literally falls apart. Not to mention, we'll talk about Tesla's infrastructure opening up, what that means, and then, of course, we'll have a big Q&A session with Kyle Connor. He is awesome. He test drives like everything. I wish I could do that. We're going to
Me
see
too.
what his insights are for the future of EVs, because if he'd be the one to ask, he would be the one to ask. So 9 a.m. this Wednesday, we'll be chatting with Kyle for about 30, 45 minutes. Be here to ask your questions. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. So I'll make sure
That
and
would
share that.
be 6 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, like if you wanna join live, you can wake up at 5 o'clock, Justice, but don't expect you to. Yeah, and if you don't want to wake up that early over on the West Coast, of course you can catch the replay. But it's going to be a fun time. So if you have any questions for Kyle before the show, feel free to head over to the YAA community forum. We have our electric vehicle forum where I'm at every day. Drop your questions in there, and we'll make sure and bring them up on the show. But yeah, Justice, gonna be exciting. We're
Yeah,
almost big time.
yeah, that sounds great. I will be there. I'll be in my jammies, but I'll be there watching.
Yes, yes. All right. And another guest that we're going to have coming up in a few weeks is the Ionic guy. So, any of you out there who are Ionic 5 fans like myself, the Ionic guy on YouTube, he really pioneered and took the lead when it comes to all things Ionic 5, from accessories to ownership and everything in between, buying, selling. Yeah. Later this month, we'll have the Ionic guy on the show too. So, you guys
Nice.
stay tuned. Please subscribe if you like this stuff. Maybe give it a subscribe. We're on Instagram as well. I've talked enough today, Justice. Sorry about that.
Okay, it's always a pleasure to hear you talk, and I always love the discussions. So you
Yeah.
can't talk too much for me.
Hey, some people say my voice puts them to sleep, and honestly, I have a hard time sleeping, so that might be a good thing. I'll be
That could be
someone's
a good thing.
ASMR out there. Yeah, I am someone's ASMR. All right, you guys. Well, I will see you Wednesday bright and early at 9 a.m. Have a wonderful Monday. Bye-bye.